Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Buffalo Sports Insider, the most electrifying sports podcast in Buffalo, New York. I am joined today by KJ Zielinski.
Not close enough.
Wait, what?
Zelezinski. You have to say it very Polish.
Oh,
very Polish. My ancestors are screaming right now.
I'm so sorry. Some of mine are too, because I'm part Polish, if you could believe that. Our other guest, Thomas Bailey, is here with us.
Easy one.
That's true.
And our special guest today, Mr. Joe Cali, from the Buffalonian podcast. He is joined with us today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Sabres and the Bills, and it's going to be a good time. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great. This is exciting. I've heard so much about it throughout the semester. Close with all you guys, so this is a great opportunity, and I'm excited to talk some Bills and Sabres, both at 500. So we have some interesting things to talk about, but looking forward to it.
Let's get some snaps for Joe.
Oh yeah,
I'm excited to have this guy on.
I'm going to throw up Joe's. Well, throw up sounds bad. I'm going to put up. I'm going to put up Joe's website right now. The Buffalonian podcast. You can go here and check out all of his episodes. You can also go on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. He's got them all listed right there. So go check out Joe and his podcast. It's a great show.
Vouch.
Yes.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's been a lot of fun. So
yeah. I mean, well, tell us a little bit about your podcast. I mean, how do you like doing it? How long have you been doing it?
So this is
how'd you get started?
It's a friend of mine from high school, and we started it. I was an education major at the time. It was just for fun, right? Like to talk about the Bills, talk about the Sabres, and our coveted sports teams around the Buffalo area, even the Bandits when they went on their championship run successfully and unsuccessfully, right? So we decided to start a podcast. I ended up changing my major to journalism and sports communications. So it's been doing well. It's been a lot of fun. We try to keep it simple. I liked how this feels, right? I watched a couple of your episodes before coming on. It's just, friends talking about sports and the teams that they care about. So that's at the end of the day. That's what we go for, and it's been going well. We're started in March of 2021, so started in the off season. Really rough time to start a sports podcast, but it ended up doing all right. And we do 2 episodes a week now during football season, 1 in the off season for football. A little more Bills centered because the Sabres just have such a long season. There's so much to talk about. The Bills are only 18 weeks really in an NFL season, and then the postseason, if they make it this season. But it's been a lot of fun. So yeah, 2 years strong, and we hope to keep it going. So
Love it.
Great, man. Well, welcome to the show. And you know what? Let's start right into it. Let's go right into the Sabres. We're going to start with the Rangers recap. They played Monday night. I'm going to put up the screen here if you could see that. So let's just have that up here. Let's just go right into it. Joe, let's start us out, man.
Well, it was a refreshing thing to see a win in the dominant one, I should say. Because you saw them go toe-to-toe with Chicago, and that was okay. You should have beat up on that team, truthfully. But they kept it close. And the Rangers, I went into that game thinking, all right, we're going under 500 even further. This isn't going to do it. Then Luukkonen unleashes his inner Dominic Hasek somehow, and 5-1 comes along, and the Rangers goalie smashing sticks off the ice. I was very pleased with it. I know it's a short term, very pleased, because we'll talk about the preview for the next game, but it was nice to see a 5-1 dominant win out of the team.
Yeah,
contributing,
and that's a tough thing too with the Sabres wins. Is you're so right. It's always short lived.
Yeah.
It's like there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of consistency. You know what I mean? Because it's like the Sabres have just had a tough time starting out strong and then keeping up the pressure and then stringing together wins. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. It's been very difficult. As he talked about that Blackhawks game, team probably we shouldn't be close with. It ends up being close.
Exactly.
And then you got the game the Flyers game. We lost 5-1 to the Flyers, the bottom feeders of the Metro. And then you got the best of the best in the Eastern Conference, and we smoke them.
Yeah. Exactly. No, it's definitely, again, it's really interesting because I think I said this maybe last episode or last week, where it just feels like everything for the Sabres, nothing clicks at once. And this time, you had the goaltending clicking and you had the offense clicking, but like our special teams weren't there. Our defense wasn't perfect. I mean, you can see that either way. But then in other games, like our offense can be great, but our defense doesn't click and our goaltending isn't perfect. And our special teams, like in the Devils game, our special teams gets 2 goals. It's like, it's tough. Like I feel like that's for Buffalo sports in general. That's just
that's just always how it seems to go. But like I think at least for this game, really great game. Like the silver lining for me, like Tuck 2 goals. You know, you had Olsen and Power with 2 assists. You had the 3-point night from Mitz. Really good game all the way around. Of course, Luukkonen, aforementioned, amazing game from him. Hell of a save in that period.
Oh my goodness. Well,
amazing.
A little lucky.
But, we'll take what we can get here, especially when you're trying to fight like we are in like 5-1. That's a big win.
It really
That's
is.
a statement win.
And I like that you brought up the assist from Olofsson because he's been I was a big Olofsson hater at the beginning of the season, and now he's definitely stepped it up a little. Is that how you see it, Joe? Is it more like trade value?
I think for him, good on him for stepping up and actually making some good plays.
Right.
The Sabres organization might be looking at it as, okay, now we have some value in him that we can maybe get a couple pieces in return. But truthfully, the issue with the Sabres is they're trying to slow it down to help their defense, in my opinion. When you have the offense that you do that's high-flying, unpredictable, a little messy at times, like it's not scripted, it's more backyard, for lack of a better term, backyard football or a little frozen ice.
A little frozen, exactly. Pot hockey.
It's like the dead in the Thanksgiving hockey game that's just all over them, right? You're slowing that down to help the defense, but you're purging the offensive stats. And that's kind of how I see it. And the defense isn't being helped all that much by doing that. So I feel like you should just let the offense go. When Thompson's back, you're going to be at full strength right there too. Yeah. So and he's a big part of that fast-moving offense. I think you got to get back to that for the Sabres' sake. You saw it a little bit here. Unpredictable, like just all over the ice. I think that's the base you have to get back to with the offense and kind of let the defense slide a little bit. I think that's the way to go because they have one game out of the playoffs last year doing that. So you can do that again.
Absolutely.
Great. So Thomas, what is some upcoming or some recent news in the Sabres verse? Why don't you lead us off with that?
Recent Sabres news. Buffalo Sabres goaltender Devin Levi sent down. He hasn't played the 9 games yet, so he's not going to come off his entry-level contract. Still going to keep that intact for another year. Likely going to have 2 more years on that entry-level deal before having to get a new one, which is exciting for Sabres fans. It's a little disappointing. He's going back down. Not too much into that right now because I'm sure he'll be back up here later on in the season. But I like the idea to give Luukkonen the start for right now. He's very much so earned it. And so other than that, Yuri Kulich, one of our first-round picks, drafted 28th overall in 2022 from the Sharks, he is going to be back down on the AHL squad as well. Lucas Rusek is still on the mainline team as of now. Other than that, we have that Buffalo Sabres versus St. Louis Blues game. That is tomorrow night at 8 p.m. at Enterprise Center in St. Louis, Missouri. So it should be pretty interesting to see how that all goes, especially since St. Louis right now, 11-9-2, right around the same spot as us. And, they're playing in a really stacked division. Those wins need to happen.
I agree. I think, again, you also are going to see Brandon Biro. What's the consensus?
I'd say Biro. That's kind of how I tend to.
Brandon Biro also called up too. And I thought, again, his start that he had, 2 goals.
2 goals, yeah.
I mean, really, really cool to see. So I'm excited to have him back up. And Rosen's still with the team, correct?
Rusek.
No, Rosen.
Oh, you're right. It is Rosen. My fault.
No. It's we're all floating around again. I think that's the biggest story.
The injuries are crazy.
That's the biggest story of the Sabres season so far. It's just been players going move up, down. Exactly. Levi, talk to me about Levi, Joe. Because is it the right move?
I think it is because at this point, the defense is so messy. You're just not providing him with a good enough start in the NHL. Where you're going to just kill his confidence in himself by just getting scored on because there's a cluster in front of the net and he can't follow the puck. You know what I mean? So it's better to let him just develop in Rochester, a team that has had postseason runs and done very well in the AHL. Develop there. I'm glad they didn't do the 4-minute thing like they did with Matt Savoy. Just sent right back down.
Poor Savoy,
but good on them for saving that contract start too inside the 9 games. So I think it'll at the end of the day be a good thing for Levi and the Sabres organization. It's a lot to put on a 21-year-old with a horrible defense to have to really carry that. So I can't imagine doing that at 21 years old. I don't know about you guys.
We've seen some similar things in the past with guys like Pekka Rinne, Devin Dubnyk even, and both had great careers for the most part. Obviously, Dubnyk a couple unforgiving seasons, but I mean, Pekka Rinne, he went on that run to the Cup final, in 2016. So like, it's exciting to see because we've seen this in history, and history tends to repeat itself. So there's a good chance here that this ends up working out.
So, okay, real quick. After the Blues game, we have 5 more games after that. So 6 games total from tomorrow and next Saturday beyond. We got Blues, Carolina, Predators, Detroit, Red Wings. We got the Bruins and the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yes.
Real quick, what do we give us a prediction of the record at the end of next week?
Oh,
Start with KJ.
Wow, end of next week. Okay, let me peek over
Let's
your screen here.
let's pop that up on the
I'm
screen if you
seeing.
can.
I think I'm seeing an away loss to Carolina. Again, I think Carolina's starting to figure it out.
we played
a little
them
bit
well,
more.
lost in
We played them well, lost in overtime.
I'll
I
take
don't.
that again for the point, though.
I no, 100%. I would love to be like the Bruins and
I
get
think
so many
Carolina's
overtime
gonna
losses,
play
get a
us
point
right.
every game.
Yeah.
So I think again they pick it up against the Predators. They pick it up against Patrick Kane and the Red Wings. Lose against the Bruins, and then Canadiens on Saturday is going to be a toss-up. I see them going probably
We're
an
10-10-2
even
right now.
3-3 split, and
So
you're probably
13,
13-13-2. I can see that happening.
I see that probably happening a little bit here too. I feel like we are actually going to win 4 of these games. I think the Hurricanes game and the Bruins game are the games we're going to stumble a little bit.
Okay.
We always kind of struggle against the Bruins, especially in the regular season. I think Carolina's going to step it up a little bit more.
Mhm.
Like overtime lost to them last time. I feel like they're going to put the foot on the gas pedal, not be as conservative as they were. We tied the game late, lost in OT. But other than that, I feel like we end up this road trip / home trip, 6-game stand. I think we go 4-2-0. And if we do lose a game, I think we lose one of that Red Wings or Canadiens game in overtime. So I'm going to keep it at 4-2 for right now, but just be a little conservative with those games because they're division rivalry games. Anything can happen.
Sure.
Joe?
I'm with you on the 4. Here's what I think happens. You lose to Carolina.
Yep.
You go to OT with Boston.
Okay.
I think it's a
Boston.
surprise game. I think the Sabres play exceptionally well. Kind of a trap game for Boston. I feel like they
Similar
might
to
come
like
in.
the Rangers game.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So I think the rematch here is going to be big, and I see the Sabres taking it to OT. Would I love to say they're going to win in OT? Yes. I'm going to stay on the conservative side. They go 4-1-1 at the end of the series.
4-1.
I would love to see a
Yeah,
shootout.
shootout,
We
Mike.
haven't seen a shootout yet.
I mean, we
can't
got to hope
believe
we
it.
have steaming hot Lucan in and not ice cold Lucan.
Right, exactly.
So that's
Exactly.
what you got to hope for. But yeah, 4-1-1 for the Sabres this week.
Awesome. All right, sounds good. So what we're going to do real quick, we're going to take a quick break. We will be back to talk about the Bills. We're going to switch out KJ with Deshaun, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
You wouldn't do that. So why do you do this? Distracted driving kills an average of 9 people and injures over 1,000 every day in America. Put down your phone. Lives depend on it. Don't drive intoxicated. Don't drive intoxicated. A sobering message from AAA.
All right, and we're back. And we're back with our good friend, Deshaun Francois. Is that how I say it?
Yes, sir.
That's
You
all
got
right.
it right.
All righty.
First try.
Awesome. Bam. Got it. All right, so we are to our Bills bye-week roundtable. Of course, we don't really want to talk about it, but we just
But
suffered.
we can have hope this week. I'll say that.
Yeah,
Because we don't have to expect a Bills win or loss. We just have a weekend.
Yeah,
Enjoy
So
football.
yes.
we don't have to
Yeah.
think about the Eagles loss. I'm sorry for saying it. I don't really want to think about it again for the rest of the season. So here's what we're going to do. It's the Bills bye week. They have the Chiefs coming off the bye week. We know that. But what we're going to talk about first, we're going to go around the table. Where do you guys think the Bills are going to – it's week 18. Let's fast forward to week 18, okay?
Mhm.
Where are the Bills? What's going on? Are they going into the playoffs? What do they look like? Let's just narrow it down to where do you see the Bills at week 18? Go ahead, Deshaun.
So for me, I actually drew up a little diagram for what I think is going to happen. So I think out of the bye week, we have Bills loss to the Chiefs, followed up with another Bills loss to the Cowboys, which is going to lead to a Chargers win because you know how the Chargers are always going to sell. It's just what they do.
They Charger.
Yeah. And then the Patriots is a must win for me because they lost to the Patriots that game in October when they should not have, especially after losing to the Bengals. So this Patriots game is a must win, even though it won't matter. And then I think they finish off the season with a loss to the Dolphins, and the Dolphins solidify their mark leading into the playoffs. So I see the Bills
8 and 9.
spectating right along with the rest of us watching the wild card round at the end of week 18.
Big hot take, man. No, I guess not a hot take because, that is definitely one of the most difficult schedules. I won't lie. I think that we are going to come back here, though. I think Josh Allen's playing his best football of the season. I think we get a win against the Kansas City Chiefs. They struggled a lot against the Raiders. They've struggled against similar teams to Buffalo. I think Buffalo's kind of established themselves as the dominant force over the Chiefs when it comes to regular season play. I mean, we're 2-0 against them in our last 2 meetings. So I feel like we kind of find ways to beat the Chiefs in the regular season. It's the postseason that we tend to struggle. I think we get that dub there. I think we can beat the Cowboys. I think we've proven that time and time again. The Cowboys just beat up on the lower bodies like the Giants and the Commanders now in their division. I feel like we take that one. I feel like we beat the Chargers. Chargers slumping right now. Probably not much to play for here. I do think we stumble in one game, and that's the Dolphins game at the end of the season, if we do stumble at all. But I think 4, maybe 5 games that we win here of our last 5, I think we end up making the playoffs. It's probably the 7 seed at either 10-7, or if we're 11-6, I see 6 seed, because I think the 5 seed is going to be the Cleveland Browns.
Okay, I like it. At this point, your dream scenario is you lose to the one NFC team and you go 4-1. You lose to the Cowboys because the Bills now, their struggle, they can win these games. It's the record in the AFC conference that scares me at this point.
Right.
You have the Steelers who are just overperforming on what you'd expect. Tiebreakers, like you said.
Yeah.
And that's all they've been mentioning on these broadcasts too, Nance and Romo, the past 2 weeks. That's all you hear is, the tiebreakers.
Even the Broncos one is important too.
Exactly.
Head,
yeah.
because we lost that.
Right. So realistically, what you're looking at here is I think the Bills take the game against Kansas City. They win. You said the regular season record. The Kansas City Chiefs have also not played their best football towards the end the season. You know what I'm saying? Like MVS drops that pass in the end zone. I get it. Like the Chiefs are a great team. They have Patrick Mahomes.
There's a reason they got shut out in that second half.
There is. And the Bills' defense, as depleted as it is, has been, I can't say they've been great because they allowed 30 points between the second half and overtime against the Eagles, but McDermott in the first half knew how to stop the offense, and something changed. Their game plan changed. You saw Swift moving to the outside on runs, so their game plan changed. McDermott didn't adjust. That's one thing. The Cowboys game, I think, is the one you drop. NFC rival. They're hot and not. And when they're hot, their defense is burning hot. They stop everything.
Bland,
yes,
yeah,
exactly. So I think you drop the game to the Cowboys. After that, then I would say the Chargers game, they're going to Charger. I would say that's a win. The Patriots, I agree with Sean on that. That's a must win right there because that game,
absolutely,
you should be 1 game up from where you are now. You should be
like
7-5 with that.
Patriots, man.
Yeah.
That automatically solidifies that they're done because that puts them very low in the division. Yep. So it
exactly.
Matter.
And tiebreakers there, you know how many teams have beaten the Patriots as opposed to the Bills losing to them twice? You know what I mean? So that right there, that's a must win for them. The Dolphins, I can see them faltering on. The issue I have with the Dolphins game, though, while, yes, they play well, their offense is fantastic. Fangio's got a great defensive scheme. Their defense doesn't do the greatest against teams with hot offenses, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So they can stomp on horrible teams. Yeah. And the same to say about the Bills with their defense currently. They stomped on the Jets with horrible offensive play, 32-6. Played a good team. It got close.
To the Raiders and
Commanders. Right. So Dolphins, alike to the Bills, can stomp on horrible teams. As soon as the team's offense, like the Bills, can come into the picture and go on the fly, like Allen rolling out. You saw Josh Allen be Josh Allen for the first time in a long time against the Eagles. That's the reason they were in the game, personally. He put the Superman cape on. If they can do that against the Dolphins again, I think they edge that out. But 4-1 realistically is where you have to go. If they drop one of those games, I'm with you. They're done. So it might be a hopeful thinking 4-1, but I think you can beat the Chiefs coming out of the bye, especially having that week of rest and playing a great game against Philly coming off of that. It's a loss, but it's not like a Broncos loss. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a loss, but it's not a. That's Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2021. Time travel. 6-6 on the season. Granted, it's in the NFC and they were not very competitive.
Yeah.
They ended up going to the Super Bowl, right? I'm not saying that's happening.
Yeah, I
for the
think they
Bills.
won the division at like 9-8.
They did,
Yeah.
right? So you're not winning the division. You're not doing that. But at 6-6, there is still playoff hopes. And if you get hot at the right time, like the Bills did, 11-6 in 2021, played one of the arguably best games ever played against the Kansas City Chiefs. So
Yeah.
and if you win against a team like Pittsburgh in the divisional round, you can go.
My question to y'all now is, if the Bills do make it into that playoff spot where they're in the hunt or they're at the bottom, do you think that puts a little chip on their shoulder that's going to boost them into playing better? Because I feel like we've already been seeing chip on their shoulder Bills. Every game needs to be better than their next week needs to be better than the next. So if they're really going to be at the bottom, are they really competition going into the playoffs at all?
I think they're definitely competition, but winning the game is going to be difficult, especially with right now the coaching staff not in the most favorable position amongst us fans. Even in the building right now, it seems like it's not as good as it's been in recent years. And so in my honest opinion, I feel like we're definitely going to be a tough out. I feel like it's going to be like a similar thing, like a 31-28, like similar to that Eagles game. I mean, I feel like we're going to be a tough out, but winning a game or two is probably the farthest I can see it. I don't know if championship run is possible right now. And honestly, I'm not sure how we're going to do it.
You need players to step up. That's what you need. You need Gabe Davis in the Eagles game to show up during the playoffs.
We need Gabe Davis
Big
from
game
the Chiefs.
James. Yeah,
from
that's
the Chiefs run, man.
right. And you
4
need,
touchdowns.
yeah, James Cook, you can't drop that pass right away. That's a touchdown that puts the Bills ahead, changes the entire momentum and pace of that game. It's just these stupid mistakes that you've seen from the Bills can't be made, and I worry that they will make them. Because in crunch time situations, the criticism of the coaching staff and of Sean McDermott is these game time decisions that need to be made. You're running cover zero, backed up to the Eagles end zone. You know cover zero doesn't work. The Bengals game should have been proof of that enough. You got killed on that. But you do it anyway, and you let Jalen Hurts with an injured knee run it into the end zone.
Well, who was the defensive player? I forgot the name escapes me, but he said it right after the game? I think. Did you guys hear that? Where he for the Eagles?
Oh yeah.
Who said,
Darius Slay.
Yeah.
yeah. He's like, we were watching that, and we knew we basically saw the look.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not see that.
He's like, we knew we were going to score because
right
we
after
saw it
that,
a million
he talks
times.
about how great Josh Allen played and how he doesn't understand the disrespect Allen's been getting and stuff, and that's all over the place. But the beginning half of that isn't, and it's just like. It's stuff like that make you wonder, like, is it Josh Allen? Is it other people? Yeah, well, it's a team game right now. And the thing is no matter what, the good coaches win the good games without the good players.
That's
and
true.
When that happens, it's just really difficult, especially right now with all the injuries.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that last drive that you, first of all, 4th and 7 inside your own 25, 30-yard line, let's just say. I don't remember exactly where the Bills were. Your best chance to win in that second half was Josh Allen, okay? Miscommunication to Gabe Davis. He knew the look. They knew what was happening. Gabe curved to the left instead. He should have come to the middle of the end zone. That's that. Joe Brady took the blame. 4th and 7, I would have put it back in his hands not because Bass, that defense was not stopping anything. If you look at that last drive for Philadelphia, every play was to the left hash. Every single play. Even Jalen Hurts' run was out to the left. They knew they did not cover that left side. There was no game time adjustment to stop them. If you shifted the defense to the left side, you would have been able to stop them a couple times at least. And maybe try to hold a field goal. Which
Philadelphia definitely did with us at halftime. They completely adjusted, and that's what championship teams do.
It's so true. And the thing is, though, I wouldn't hang my hat on our season like, our season's over now. I love to see that game because even though we lost that game, yes, that team is the best team in the entire NFL right now.
Definitely.
They have the best record. No one's even close to them. Every other team has 3 or more losses. They're the only team with 1. That's an amazing football team. And to go out there and play that well, Joe Brady called that game right there 34 points.
He's been exceptional.
It would have been a win had Gabe Davis made that play inside. That would have been a victory we're talking about right now. I feel like we're not upset like right now. I feel like the Bills are not upset. I feel like they're seeing the silver lining here. They're like, I think we can do this. I've seen it before. I've seen it so many times. We've seen it so many different like games. Like this team just falters at the worst moments. And when that happens, I feel like we just have the problems of the coaching staff in the back of our heads, but this team just continues to carry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 2021, the Bills lost in overtime to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And again,
And then went on that run.
yeah,
Right on that run.
They played
That's what
horribly
I'm
in the first
talking
half,
about right
and
here.
then they went crazy.
I think that's a similar thing that we're going to see, and I'm very excited because we beat the Chiefs all the time when we play them in the regular season. We're known to destroy the Dolphins. Like, look, 48-20 this year. You know, that was the last game before our big slump, whatever. All that stuff right there. The only game, realistically, is the Cowboys game that we could falter, and we've showed in the past that we can take down the Cowboys, even with how good of a team they are. So if we win that Cowboys game, I feel like that's going to be the game that sparks this run completely, because I feel like after that, I feel like we can get anything done.
Sure. I think it's been an interesting arc to this season so far, where in the beginning of the season, there was all this talk, all this hype, not necessarily coming from the Bills, obviously, but that they were Super Bowl contenders. And I think with all the negativity, the stuff surrounding them with the dig stuff and that Josh Allen, all the nonsense garbage, I think that plays a factor. But I think at this point in the season, I think they've been knocked down a couple of pegs. Not that they needed to be, but I think that idea of them being so high above everyone else, that idea has been knocked down. So I think that just to play into what you're saying, Thomas, I think that's going to help them, their mentality, like moving
They're
forward.
An underdog team.
They're back
Yeah.
to the underdog.
That's where they like
Perfect,
to be.
yeah.
If you think about their best run in the Josh Allen era, which was 2020, that was the year that we weren't considered Super Bowl.
No one saw us coming.
Yeah.
We were considered to be frauds at that point. And I'm sorry because I saw the look over. I feel like you feel a little
I feel
differently,
like-
Go ahead,
but
Deshaun.
that's
The
crazy.
world does not view the Bills as an underdog team, which is why we're having the conversation that we're having right now. And I was going to actually question you on why you feel like they didn't need to have a couple pegs knocked down off of their
I feel like
stature.
we did.
Because every single year it's, we expect the Bills to do this, we expect the Bills to do this, we see this on paper. Anybody can look good on paper. We have a lot of teams in NFL that look great on paper, but the production that we've been seeing from the Bills these past few years have just been losses in the playoffs. We have nothing to show for it. So I definitely feel like this season knocking their pegs down is a good thing, and it's what they needed. So like I'm a little bit against what you were saying there, by them not having to get their pegs knocked down, but
They needed to get back into underdog status, I think was what
Underdog
Joe
runs
said.
yeah, I can
Yeah.
agree with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I can definitely agree with that.
Yep. Underdog runs faster.
All right. Well, this is a good segue into, I'm going to share this screen here. Salary cap and who are we keeping? Who do we cut next year? Currently, according to overthecap.com, we are 29 million, north of 29 million against the salary cap.
Yeah, we're in debt.
Yeah.
And
I think
That's
So I'm just gonna
that's
put it
all I
there.
gotta say. My terms that I like to say is the Bills are popped and they got to figure it out. Honestly,
Yeah.
I haven't been able to take a chance and look at the contracts, which is bad on my part, and I would have been able to rationalize it better. But obviously, that's going to be the answer there. You have to find out which contracts on your team do not suffice to the production of what you're looking for out of this Bills team. So if someone's getting paid a lot of money and they're not producing at all, you got to cut them and find someone that you can get for that same exact product, but at a cheaper value.
I love that you're
restructure.
saying that, because a big guy in my head right now, as soon as you were saying those words, Tre'Davious White. And I love Tre'Davious White. Don't get me wrong, man. Trey Day is one of my favorite players. I loved it when we picked him in the draft in 2017. He was probably my favorite corner, even over Marshawn Lattimore, who my friend is a Saints fan. He loved that pick. I even thought Tre'Davious White was the best corner then. I think he still is in that draft now. It's just the injuries, man. How many times have we seen an Achilles and an ACL injury in back-to-back years? You just come back from that and play elite again. I don't see that happening. And the thing is it's either restructure or you're gone. And the thing is right now with the way Tre'Davious White's deal was restructured in 2019, after he won Defensive Player of the Year, not Defensive Player of the Year, he was tied for the league lead in interceptions that year with Stephon Gilmore with 6. And so he got a 5-year extension. This would be the last year coming up. this is the year we could release him and pay zero cap, in like anything. We would pay anything. And I believe it's almost $22 million that he's set to be paid. So I feel like that is a big move that has to be made in order for this team to make a run.
I'll tell you one person who I love, this player. I have his jersey hung up in the closet. Dawson Knox.
Nah, I knew you were going to say
I was waiting.
I was waiting.
I truly do. He's one of my favorite players, Bills. I think a restructure is in order for him because you paid him a contract of a Travis Kelce-esque tight end, right? After he had great receiving season, he showed Dawson drops, disappeared, out came Dawson Knox, right? It's just you saw that happen, and the Bills gave him that contract, which I was really excited about. Then you didn't use him in Ken Dorsey's scheme at all like you're paying him for. So, and he made plays when he needed to, and then this season, he dropped a few. You find out there's this lingering wrist injury that no one said anything about, and then he ends up having surgery on it, and everyone's blaming Dawson. And I'm like, at the same time, I love him. I don't think it was necessarily him. He's going to get healthy. Dalton Kincaid has taken such a big production jump where you're like, is he going to be the receiver tight end now? And Dawson Knox is a better blocker, even though Kincaid's been really good, honestly. Mm-hmm. Dawson Knox is a better blocking tight end. You can use him on some trick routes, too, as a receiving tight end. Restructure his contract. Keep Kincaid on his draft deal right now.
Yep.
Quentin Morris is a great third option. Just got to restructure that Knox contract, free up some money. You can do that because Brandon Beane does a good job of putting all the money on the back end. So you haven't paid him a lot yet. So you can get rid of that, restructure it to where you need to have it. And I think you keep him. You can't release him. He's a pivotal part to this offense, but
I think he's too good to release.
Yes, because another team would happily just grab him
and that's why I was going to say I attest to what you have to say on that. I actually agreed with moving Kincaid, not Kincaid, but moving Knox because of Kincaid's production. Like Kincaid has already seen Gabe Davis numbers so far as soon as Dawson Knox took his injury out and he's not playing at the moment. So I definitely do think that the Bills are going to move a lot forward with Dalton Kincaid, and they should move on from Dawson Knox. Take his money, get a trade that you can if you're able to, and see if you can structure somewhere else rather than keep Kincaid and have Quentin Morris. You can move on with Dalton Kincaid and Quentin Morris, or draft another tight end if you feel very comfortable doing that, and try and maximize as much value you can get off of Dawson Knox right now. That's what I feel.
And that's what I think I'm leading to here is that there are some tough decisions that are going to need to be made, I think, at the end of the season.
And I feel like a lot of it's going to come down to how the season shapes out. So
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of it right now is just like put the stamp on it, lock it away, don't even worry about that. They have so much to worry about right now with the playoff race, not even being in the playoffs right now, like being in the hunt, yeah, sure, but that's not a playoff spot.
You're on the outside looking in.
Yeah, you got to make the playoffs before we figure out all this stuff right here, because I feel like most of this is really crucial to what we end up doing. Like if Dawson Knox comes back next year, is it going to be on a restructured deal? Is it going to be on the same contract? How is it going to look? And I feel like a lot of that's going to be shaped by the last 5 games here and postseason if that happens.
Gabe Davis is another name too. I know. I don't know what I got to look again. Like I'm in your boat, Sean. I'm not really having delved into the cap. I only saw the negative 29
million. He's still
million.
on his rookie deal right now because he's got we accepted his 5th-year option.
Okay. Still, that might not be a player. You might have to say, okay, we're going to move on because his production, like you said, Dalton Kincaid's out there as a slot receiver pretty much and doing more than Davis has. Davis is so hot and so not at different times in the season. He shows up in the big moments sometimes, but then you have big moments where he just whiffs completely.
Yes.
So I think you might be able to find a more productive wide receiver too out there, or I don't see him getting a big contract from the Bills, especially in their current cap situation.
How can you not see him getting a big contract from the Bills if they just put a big old C on his jersey?
Yeah, that's the thing though. Like you invested in him, you put the captainship.
If you think about the C, my counter argument to that would be that look at Kyle Okposo. Get back into the Buffalo Sabres here a little bit. Kyle Okposo, man, he's our 4th line winger right now / centerman. He's at the bottom line, like he's in and out of games. Like last year, he was scratched a ton. So it's interesting that you say that, but it's not about necessarily the playing like how great of a player you are. It's about like the great of a guy you are at the same time. And so that's probably why he's got the seat more than his play style. Of course, his play style does add into that a little bit. You know, he's had some really crucial games for us. Like, look at that Chiefs game in the divisional round, 4 touchdowns, most ever.
Yeah.
But just all the way around there, I feel like a lot of it has to go with, you know, being a captain as a leader, not necessarily as a great player.
All right, we got to wrap it up, but we're going to try to make this quick. Last thing I want to talk about, last thing I want to ask you guys about.
Okay.
Let me think of how to handle this. How do we handle Sean McDermott at the end of the season? Joe, I want you to go first.
All right. So
Real quick.
I'm not on the fire McDermott bandwagon fully. I am though, because his game time decisions are not awful. They're the reason you're losing these close games. Josh Allen's 0 for 6 in overtime, more like Sean McDermott's 0 for 6 in overtime. Because Allen puts the game on the line, puts his body on the line for the game. He does what's asked of him. That's not an Allen stat. Quarterback wins were not a quarterback stat until this game, until you can point that at Josh Allen, because everyone loves to point the finger at that guy, right? The finger should be pointing at Sean McDermott, and there's some questionable things like lateral moves from other coaches, right? Brian Dable, you see that interaction they had on the field. There's some history there. Coaches unhappy in the McDermott system might be a turning point. Like, okay, if you're the Pagulas, you give them one more year if they don't make the playoffs. Then you're like, okay, if it's still the same old show, we got to move on.
It's like lowest common denominator.
Yeah,
you know?
because you're
It's like,
going down. You went AFC Championship, divisional. Now you might not even be in the playoffs.
Right.
So that's the problem.
I think
Deshaun.
there's a simple answer. Find a great defensive coordinator rather than trying to use your head coach as a defensive coordinator and head coach. Just let him focus on one job, just like the offensive coordinator has to do.
Yeah.
Great.
I think that's basically what it is. Leslie Frazier took the year of absence, things like that. It's going to come down to how he performs next year. I feel like McDermott's not getting fired. And that's a thing that many fans might not agree with, but I agree with. I feel like you have to let him be the coach next year with Leslie Frazier coming back, be the DC. And if it's still the same struggle, then you can worry about firing McDermott. But you can't blame this all on him. There's been so many injuries to that defense and everything like that. He's trying to focus more on the defense because if you think about it, most of the injuries have been on the defensive side. So he's trying to game plan more on defense than offense. And that's like really just like leading him to have to worry about being a DC more than being about the HC. And when that happens, it really causes struggles as we've seen this season. And so I feel like right now, it's not fire McDermott. It's give him another year. And I feel like it has to be a trust the process moment like we've had.
Yeah, let's have him focusing on head coaching, dole out the duties to the coaches that should be coaching those schemes. And and hopefully we have a little bit better next season. But there's still some season left. Let's not get crazy. We have some hope still. So with that, I do want to end it. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you, KJ, for coming on earlier to talk about the Sabres. Thank you, Deshaun. Thank you, Thomas. And thank you for our special guest, Joe Cali from the Buffalonian podcast. Please go check him out. I'm going to put our website up there and make sure to check out Joe's. We will share that as well. And again, thank you guys very much. And we will see you
This
on
was
Monday.
the most electrifying show in Buffalo.
Most electrifying.
Yes, sir.
We're out. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Diggs.